Now it's our turn to, sorry for the words, but put our balls on the table.
Remember, kids, this is not how you play hockey. It's just ugly.
I like it.
Screw you guys. I'm doing this.
You know what? I love ice cream too.
Go back to Canada, Guy Lafleur.
Game on!
Yeah, game on.
Hello and welcome into the Hockey Show right here on Mile High Sports, Colorado's biggest and best live hockey radio show, where we talk all things in the hockey world. A different show start time today because both of us came from morning skate. Not really typical of us to both be at morning skate and have to sprint over here. It felt like a weekday to me being at morning skate today and driving through the traffic that is I-25 of Denver. It just felt like a regular Wednesday to me. So I had to remember, oh yeah, I'm on my way to the hockey show. But we got a fun hockey show for you today, of course. I'm your host, JJ Jerez. With me, Ryan Boulding of NHL.com. We've got Jan Hejda in the second segment of the show here to come discuss the new Czech Pilsner that they're putting out. Hit Jan Hejda, Milan Hajduk, Dawg Nation. You know, remember we talked about it with them last year, Ryan.
It was delicious. Delicious.
Yeah, their take on the Pilsner Urquell, right, which is the Czechs' national beer. So that'll be fun to discuss that. Then we'll have Martin Richardson of Dawg Nation in the third segment to kind of remember Peter McNab, of course, with us. I know it's a little bit, I don't want to call it stale news, but it's almost been a week. We're a little bit behind the times, but we haven't had a show since the passing of Peter McNab, so obviously going to dedicate a good chunk of today's show to Peter McNab. But first, we got to start the show like we start every show, and that's with matinee money, Ryan. One matinee game. Of course, we have one going on right now. We couldn't use that one because it started at 11. Too much of an early start. But I like the game with the Edmonton Oilers and the Florida Panthers. I'm going to take Florida Panthers to win in regulation at a minus 115. Reason I do that is because I don't think the Edmonton Oilers are really trending the right direction. I mean, they just the other day got walloped by the Carolina Hurricanes, who we'll be seeing tonight. They did beat Tampa Bay a couple nights ago, but I don't think Tampa Bay is exactly the team we have grown comfortable with Tampa Bay. So those are my thoughts.
Yeah, Tampa Bay, the struggle is real, but it's not something that you didn't see coming, right? Because they have lost players, and you may look and think, oh, big deal, they lose Ryan McDonough. But it's hurting them, right? And they've lost Andre Palat, and it's hurting them. And before that, they lost Tyler Johnson, and that hurt them. They've slowly are losing guys, trying to keep the core together to stay competitive, right? But it is costing them. And then the other night, I mean, they lost three players, two defensemen. Like they're struggling, Tampa.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we got to know them pretty well during that Stanley Cup final, right? And you remember when John Cooper was going on this long rant about Andre Palat because he knows Andre Palat so well. He coached him in the AHL. They kind of came up into the NHL together. So there's really no player he was more familiar with. And he talked about just how pivotal that guy was for their team. And then to go on and lose him that summer, yeah, you're right. The pieces are falling apart right before our eyes there in Tampa.
Yep. And Florida is interesting. Florida is an interesting pick on the money matinee money today. Just because you never know which Florida team you're going to get. Just like you don't know which Edmonton team you're going to get. Are you going to get the Connor McDavid that goes and throws in a hat trick easily, or are you going to get the team that can't score any goals? Like those are the games that I have a real hard time putting money down on.
I imagine Evander Kane's still out on that one. Florida currently 4-0-1 at home this season. This is a home game for them. That's kind of what edged me that way. But I think without Evander Kane, Edmonton just doesn't really look the same. That was a big piece for them, really. And Connor McDavid and Leon Draisaitl can only do so much. I mean, their goaltending has been shaky at best. Jack Campbell, he even came out and said, I need to be better, and kind of can't be better. Yes. So
up and down with Stuart Skinner. You mentioned Evander Kane. The guy said that he got cut by a Pat Maroon skate blade, right? And he's out for months. He said that the skate cut him to the bone.
Oh, on the wrist.
Yeah.
Disgusting.
And what's interesting is I saw somebody post this on Twitter and on Reddit, but Mikko Rantanen wears like cut-proof, like fingerless gloves that protect his hand and wrist. And there's a picture of him lifting the Stanley Cup, and he's wearing these cut-proof gloves. It just takes me all the way back
to the Kevlar socks.
And the age-old debate of if you have an opportunity to protect yourself from freak accidents with razors on people's feet, why would you not do that?
Yeah, no, I get it. I'm unfortunately the side that doesn't do that kind of stuff, right? I wear regular socks. I don't even wear shoulder pads when I
This
play.
guy's just got his white Hanes cotton socks on.
I use black Nike. Thank you very much.
Okay.
But yeah, I'm with you. I think if it's there, especially at the NHL level, right? I mean, you're an asset. You need to protect everything. It was my argument when Nathan McKinnon gets hit in the face and breaks his nose over a stick. Why are we still talking about face injuries in a time and age where we have face protection? But that's just me. That's just you. We like to play it safe. But in the NHL, I think that's definitely something you need to look at. It is something that's going to prevent cuts, because now look, you can't even do your job for several months. So
yeah, especially when you're a big earner and a big producer.
Mm-hmm.
Think about that.
I also like, just for fun, this one isn't a matinee pick, but the Colorado game tonight, I'm going to throw a little action on, and that's the under. The Avalanche have actually hit the under 6 times in the last 8 times they've played Carolina. I think there's not really much firepower left on Colorado's side, and typically these two teams meet and they do hit the under anyway, like I just said. So I like the under for the Carolina and the Avalanche game tonight, and that's all for my picks today.
Yeah, I might jump in on that one too. I haven't had a chance to take a look. I've been too busy working, too busy driving, too busy talking to you.
And yeah, I mean, we were at morning skate. I don't think the Avalanche really looked as fiery as they did the other night. For some reason, morning skate before Thursday's game, they just had an extra jump to them. You could tell that there was some eagerness to get out there and play, right? Because it had been 5 days, and it was since Finland when they played Columbus. You can argue how good of a team that is, but yeah, I didn't see it today.
And Pavel Francouz is playing in net, and so that one also, if you're looking at taking an under, raises the question of, how capable will he be? He hasn't shown to be very capable this season. We know he's a capable goaltender. We know he can stop the puck. We know he can win. We knew entering the season we could be looking at a 1A, 1B goalie situation, a real goalie battle, especially with the way Georgiev played in the precission, and that has just not been the case.
And technically, Carolina playing with their backup as well. So
yes, Freddie Anderson is out. Antti Ranta is in.
That shifts our conversation to the Peter McNab story. I mean, obviously the saddest thing to hit even just the entire hockey world. I wouldn't even say just Colorado in the last week. And I've been saying this on all my podcasts. You can tell how much of an impact this guy had on hockey culture. When he did pass, every single team was talking about it. Every single outlet was talking about it. NHL Network had it all over the place. Other teams, Boston Bruins, of course, he played there, but had a really beautiful homage to him, as not to mention Colorado's as well.
Yeah, I was talking to Connor McGahey during the celebration, the video was playing, the tribute, let's say, was playing prior to the game on Thursday, and he was feeling it. He wasn't super thrilled, and I gave him a hug and I said, the thing with Peter McNab is everyone has the same Peter McNab experience. Mm-hmm. And that's not a criticism of McNab, or it doesn't devalue anybody's experience with Peter McNab, but the man was so accessible to every single person, to fans, to coworkers, to colleagues, to people in the media, to anyone who would stop and talk hockey with him. He was so generous with his time that everyone has a similar talking hockey with Peter McNab experience. And then on top of that, he did so much philanthropic work. I was thinking last night of all the break the ice events that I went to when I worked for the team, of which there were many events where we would have, kids who had blindness or vision impairment come out, or even just like underprivileged kids from a middle school or elementary school that don't have exposure to hockey. Peter McNab was always there. There's always 2 Avalanche players. There was always Bernie, and there was always Peter McNab.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you. That's exactly how it is. He was always treating everybody like a friend, right? He wouldn't just have a conversation with you because he liked talking hockey. He genuinely had the passion for it, but also enjoyed talking to you about it, and he made you feel that way. And that's what it was, right? Everybody gets thrown off like, wow, this guy is not only talking to me about this, but he's getting in depth. He's listening to my opinion, and he's taking it as valid.
One of the things I cherished, and I know Jared Bednar kind of mentioned this, I've been meaning to put fingers to keys and type something out, and it's kind of hard to take the chaos and put it into something, orderly. But he just was a guy that you could go more so when after I left the team, I could come to a morning skate or whatever. I'd go sit by Peter and say, Peter, what do you think? What do you think about this? And he was a guy who would always bring up something that you, or maybe the media in general, or the collective, hadn't noticed or weren't thinking about or weren't talking about. He was a guy that just always saw something in a player, something in the team play, whatever it was. You might be thinking, this guy's been terrible. And he would say, actually, what do you think about this? And he would talk about those things. And that was his knowledge of the game. That was his preparation for the game. I was struck by Jared Bednar saying, I think Peter would have noticed how well Martin Kaut played in Finland against Columbus. He thought Kaut was good, and Peter would have appreciated that. That's something he would have identified, right? Did Martin Kaut really show up on the score sheet or anything? Not necessarily, right? But those are the little things that these guys with this advanced knowledge of the game, with this advanced look at what's going on, those things stand out. That was what Peter was like.
I also found it interesting that he was a former DU player from way back, right? Before DU was a prominent organization, school, when it comes to hockey. And just interesting how...
Buddy, they've always been prominent.
I mean, they've been good, but they've never been what they are today with several national championships under their belt in, 15 years? So
tied for the record, but yeah.
Yeah, exactly. But I just find it interesting that he found his way to DU randomly and, kind of went and did his NHL career and then found his way back to Colorado. It's almost like he was meant to be here in Colorado, sharing his knowledge and imparting all of his wisdom on all the fans here, and that's exactly how it went down. So many people know everything they know about hockey from Peter McNab.
Yep, I talked to Paul Stastny this morning about his experiences with Peter, both at DU and with the Avalanche, and it's funny you mentioned that. My first ever in-person experience with Peter McNab was during, I believe it was like the Dreamers event is what they used to call it. I don't remember the name specifically, but it was an event to give kids without access to hockey at DU. And I worked there, and I ran into him in the tunnel and talked hockey with him. That was my first experience with him. Those two worlds colliding.
Indeed. So we got to hit a break here. Of course, we got Jan Hejda coming in next to talk the new Pilsner Urquell. No, not the Urquell. The Czech Pilsner is what they're calling it. Double Czech Pilsner because they've got two Czechs on it. Double Czech, Milan Hejdu, Jan Hejda. Jan Hejda will be joining us here next.
We'll have to get John Mitchell to give us a new review of the beer because he called it bland, remember?
I'd love to try him here on air, just like we're going to do here in the fourth segment with BioSteel. We're going to do a live on-air sampling. I'd love to try it and see really once and for all which beer we like more. I know you said last time you liked the John Mitchell beer more. I really enjoyed the Double Czech Pilsner. We'll see.
I mean, Jan said it was a beer he could see himself drinking on the bench during a game, not just post-game.
In the water bottle.
The Double
He
Czech
said, screw BioSteel.
Yeah.
All right, so we'll be right back. This is The Hockey Show. JJ Jerez, Ryan Boulding, Danny Bailey behind the glass on Mile High Sports.
Right now, it's 16 minutes past the big hour. Is that not right, Mr. Scream? Great, good stuff. I think people are getting really cranked.
Welcome back to Colorado's biggest and best live hockey radio show. This is The Hockey Show on Mile High Sports. JJ Jerez, Ryan Boulding. We're headed to the phones. First time since last week when we were in Finland. Now I believe we're heading to Detroit to discuss the Double Czech Pilsner with Jan Hejda, and I know Martin Richardson's on the other line. He's in Littleton, not as far. But Jan, are you there? How you doing? And thanks for hanging out with us today.
Yes, I'm here, right in Detroit.
Jan, we're glad to have you. Long time no talk.
Yes. Yeah, thanks for the call, guys.
So, I guess catch us up on your life. Obviously living in Detroit. Last time we talked to you, you were still here in Denver. So where has the hockey path taken you, and what kind of things are you into right now?
Well, I'm not living in Detroit. I moved to Minnesota, and as of right now, I'm coaching youth hockey team, and we are in the tournament.
What is a Coach Hejda like? Is he nice players coach? Is he like the gruff, mean coach that makes guys skate? What's Coach Hejda like?
Honestly, I'm trying to be positive, but sometimes it's hard because kids not listening all the time, so it's tough. I'm trying to find the right way to be tough coach, but at the same time positive.
Is it hard, having been a player that played at the elitist of levels in the sports, to translate your knowledge to something that they can understand?
Dumb it down, you're saying?
Yeah, I think the hardest part is finding a coachable kids. youth hockey players these days they have a lot of other interests, and I think cell phones are messing up with their brains, and sometimes they have a hard time to pay attention. So it's very, very I think the priority number one is finding good teammates and coachable kids.
You're going to have to start doing video sessions through TikTok to get to them where they are.
Yeah, but those TikTok videos are for about 5 seconds, so that's about the time how long they can pay attention.
Do you find yourself trying to emulate any of your former NHL coaches? If so, which one stands out to you the most that you're trying to almost be just like him? Or do you kind of try to take the good from all the ones you learned from?
Yes, I'm kind of trying to take a little bit of everybody. I had some really good coaches through my career, and obviously I'm trying to implant that coaching to the kids, but it's not just one, it's multiple coaches.
Jan, we're here to talk to you about your Double Czech Pilsner, and last time you put this beer out, you said that it was not just a post-game beer, but a during the game on the bench type of beer that people could have. Do you feel like this new iteration of this beer is better than that?
We tried to do exactly the same one. I think people like the beer we already had, and so this one is just we tried to copy the same beer with the same ingredients. It's not too heavy, it's not too light. It's just a perfect beer.
And of course, we have Martin Richardson also on the line. He's the one that kind of puts it together, draws the parallel with Blue Spruce Brewing and Dawg Nation. Marty, can you tell us a little bit about that synergy between Dawg Nation and Blue Spruce right now, and how these unique hockey beers came to life?
Yeah, this is actually our third beer we're going to be doing, and first one we did was called Post Game IPA, and that was Johnny Mitchell and Kyle Quincy, and they brought their Ontario roots together on that one. And then the second one we did, that was so successful, we always tie it into a night where we give a check away and try and make life a little bit easier for our families going through some tough times. And that was what we did on that one. The second one was our Double Czech Pilsner that Yanni and Milan put together, and we're putting a little twist on this one this year. So my brother and I are put together one called Brew Dog German Lager. So with our German roots, we're going to do a Germany versus Czech night. So it should be pretty fun.
We'll see which one's better. Jan, I guess when you and Milan are kind of coming up with the beer, I know you guys copied, tried your best to do as close to Pilsner Urquell as possible, but did you have any disagreements as to what direction the beer should go at any point?
No, as we all know, Milan is really easy to deal with, so we came up with the idea and we all agree on it. Milan is definitely, beer lover and also a guy from Czech Republic. We all know we have a best beer in Czech Republic, best in the world, so there was not really any disagreement.
So we're not getting a World Cup of hockey anytime soon, but it looks like we're on path to a World Cup of hockey beers here.
That's right.
Is there any sort of friendly competition going on amongst you all?
I mean, Marty thinks that their beer going to be better, but I doubt it.
Marty, your take.
Yeah, we haven't done a side bet on this, but we might have to. I got a couple of tricks up my sleeve like Cappy always does, so it should be a lot of fun that night, and we're gonna have some competitions along the way too, and a couple of them that we probably have no chance on based on the big Czech boy that's on the other end of the line here, but other ones I will have a chance on, so it should be pretty good.
Now, last time you guys released the Double Czech Pilsner, we had a little release party for it. It was a blast. Ryan and I both attended, among many other people. Are you guys doing something like that again this year?
Well, this is going to be next Friday, and we're calling it the Germany versus the Czech Republic. And it's Friday, November 18th. Starts at 6 o'clock. Going to go until about 11 o'clock, and maybe a little longer. But that's going to be a great night. We're going to have probably packed the house over at the Blue Spruce Brewery, which they have 2 locations. This is going to be at their much larger location in Littleton, and off 470 in Kipling, roughly. And there'll be a lot of stuff going on that night, including opportunity to meet Jan and Milan and test the 2 different types of beers. The other beers will still be on tap. We have an amazing silent auction that's going to go that night. We're going to have a couple of live auction items, and we're going to have some really fun Oktoberfest. We're calling it Hocktoberfest, a little play on words, and that's all gonna happen on Friday. And as soon as you walk in the door, you'll run right into Jan and Milan and myself and my brother, and hopefully actually most importantly, I guess, is we're gonna hand out a couple of checks that night to some families that are going to be surprised and really need some help.
This is awesome. I can't wait. We're going to have to go. I feel like I've been practicing for a moment like this for a while now, so I'm ready. Marty, for the silent auction and the items that you're going to have up for bidding, where does that money go? What is the cause that you're taking donations for?
So Dawg Nation Hockey Foundation, which I know, JJ, you've been part of for pretty much your whole life, is it started in a beer league locker room, passing the hat with some guys that needed on my own team that needed a little help, and it's grown into this really something the local hockey community relies on when someone goes down and needs a little lift, and so what that's going to go to is the next family up. And believe it or not, this year alone, we're on pace to hand out aid exceeding $850,000 just this year alone.
Wow.
And so what these events do is they fill up those coffers for the next family up. And at this point, this year alone, we've had 74 different families that we've helped just in just in 2022 only. So every week we see 1 or 2 more recipient requests.
That's incredible, and it's not just local, right? It's all across the country.
Yeah, and the one that I was actually having I had a phone call this morning. We're actually bringing 6 boys of the 13 that were in the Humboldt accident down in January. So that's not only outside of the borders of Colorado, but the borders of the United States. And this isn't the first time. We've been doing that several times, and made trips up to up to Saskatchewan as well for the and really almost turned into a sister city for Dawg Nation up there in Humboldt, Saskatchewan. So yeah, it does cross borders, and we're honored to be able to help those guys.
It's always fun to me just how accessible, the players are when you invite them. Milan, Jan, everybody. And Jan, this will be my last one for you. You and I at the last Double Pilsner, we almost shut the place down. We were there very late, and I was sitting there with you, and so many people come up to you and are still so appreciative of your career, and just you mean so much to this community still, and I know you do a lot with Dawg Nation, but how much does it mean to you to still have an impact in a community where you played a handful of years but wasn't necessarily the heart of your career, and you just still have a lot of meaning to the people here?
Well, as a retired hockey player, I have to say that when I retire, I thought people will remember me, but I recognized very quickly that the NHL just moving forward, and there's a lot of other retired players that we forget. And I think Marta is doing a great job promoting me as a part of the Dawg Nation. That's why a lot of people still connecting my name with Colorado Avalanche, and I'm very proud to be part of Dawg Nation Hockey Foundation for about 8 years now. And me moving to Minnesota, obviously, it's a little harder, but Dawg Nation, like you asked, growing, and now we have a location in St. Louis, and we are starting Dawg Nation Minnesota, which obviously everybody knows that Minnesota is just heart of hockey, and there's a lot of I would say amateur players playing hockey in Minnesota. We're gonna have a pond hockey tournament in a prior lake in February, I'm super excited about that. It's kind of like first event here in Minnesota, and I hope it's gonna go well, like same as in Colorado.
That's awesome. I know it's going to be big. I mean, with how much hockey is popular there in Minnesota and with how much Dawg Nation does in the community, it's going to be huge. So we're excited to join you guys next Friday. We'll be there to try the new Double Czech Pilsner, and we'll put it up against your German beer. Marty, Jan, thanks so much for hanging out with us. Marty, we'll get back to you in the next segment. We'll talk some Peter McNab, but Jan, thanks again, and hopefully talk to you soon. We'll see you next week.
Hey, thank you for having us.
Always a pleasure, Jan.
That'll do it for Jan and Marty. We'll be right back on the other side and again, get back into Peter McNab because that is the biggest news here in Colorado and just had such an impact. I mean, we're talking about impacts in the communities. Jan Hejda certainly has one, but I don't think anybody had a bigger one than Peter McNab. So we'll be right back. This is The Hockey Show. JJ Jerez, Ryan Bolding, Danny Bailey behind the glass. Mile High Sports.
Let's go, Colorado!
We're back.
The Hockey Show.
Colorado's biggest and best live hockey show, that is. JJ Jerez, Ryan Bolding of NHL.com. We're heading right back to the phones. Again, it's with heavy hearts that we go to this conversation, and it'll be nice to put this behind us. I don't mean that in a rude way, but just, I don't do well with grieving. I don't do well with confronting tough emotions like this. So I'm happy to pay the respects because the respects are absolutely deserved. One of the biggest icons of Colorado hockey, as it were. We need to discuss it. So, Marty, I know you were super close with Peter McNab. He did a lot of stuff with Dawg Nation. I guess just hit us with your initial reaction on the news and just what it means to Dawg Nation to lose such a valuable member.
Yeah, just like everyone else, definitely saddened. I would say I wasn't totally shocked because I was privy to a little bit more than the general public was on how his journey was going, and but on the other end of it, it was a huge loss for us because he was literally the first celebrity that kind of embraced Dawg Nation, and he gave us a lot of credibility out of the gate when nobody really knew who we were, and he would talk about us on air, or he would show up to our events and different things like that, and introduce me to different types of people, and he continued to do that over a 10-year period. So it was for us ourselves. It's a big loss, and it is for the entire community, obviously. But he'll be missed at our events because he was usually at most of them, as you know.
I feel like most players, when they leave the game, they're not playing actively anymore. It's kind of challenging to hold on to the NHL life or a position in hockey. Even Jan mentioned the NHL kind of keeps going and moving on, right? But Peter seemed capable of holding on to that in such a unique way that he just continued to adapt and roll with it. And I was talking in the first segment, Marty, that I feel like every Break the Ice event that the Avs held that I was at, Peter was there, and you say he was at all your events, and we hear all these stories about how he would go out of his way to show up for people. I mean, does that track with your experience with him that, it was about more than hockey. It was just about, giving back maybe to the hockey world that gave so much to him when he was a player?
Yeah, and I think for Peter, it was more than just hockey. It's just who he is. He was a really compassionate, almost like grandfatherly type figure, and always took the time to carefully listen to people, and I would often just kind of sit back in awe and watch him really navigate tough situations, talking to folks that I put in front of him that were in the hospital or battling cancer, really in a bad spot, and he seemed to always. I mean, he always had the compassion, but he always chose the right words, and I'm put in that situation quite often too, and I know how difficult that is, and for him it wasn't. He just did it, and he truly had a gift for that.
This is The Hockey Show. We're talking to Martin Richardson of Dawg Nation, discussing a little Peter McNab and just remembering. Tell us how you got connected with Peter. I mean, like you said, Dawg Nation, I was a part of it for a long time, and we were slow out of the gate and tried to grow and grow and grow. All of a sudden, you saw Peter McNab wearing the Dawg Nation pin on TV, and that I'm like, man, Dawg Nation is becoming something. We're on the map. So how did you get connected with him? Just tell us the initial story of meeting Peter.
Yeah, it's really funny. Peter and I used to sit there, and neither one of us remember how we even met. It just seemed like we just knew each other. And I wish I had this great story of telling you. I know how I met Jan Hejda. I know how I met Jan, but I really don't know how Peter and I met. I think, honestly, I knew who he was, obviously, and I think I just randomly walked up to him probably at an Avs game or something and kind of told him what we do, and for whatever reason it resonated with him. And there's not this magical, cool story of how we met in reality, but it obviously blossomed into something pretty cool.
And how beneficial was that relationship, that opportunity to have such an ambassador for the game involved in the organization?
No, it's massive. On the early end, it was, we needed, there's a ton of really worthy nonprofits out there and really big ones that have a lot of marketing clout and different things like that. And we had none of that. And so you really need someone that can tout you. And there's nothing better than, if it's a hockey charity, to have Peter McNab talk about you. I don't think you could have something better than that. And I think at first I just was having him, hey, can you sign this picture or whatever? And it turned into much more than that, where I would be on TV and just go, or here watching the game on TV, and I would hear him start talking about Dawg Nation. And that really, really caused us to, more than anything, it gave us credibility and also became known in the community. And there's no doubt that had a major effect on our growth and success. There's no doubt about it.
Yeah, once Peter got involved, it seemed like a huge catalyst for suddenly you had Gabe Landeskog involved. Suddenly you had Milan Hajduk doing things. So I guess how hands-on was he in bridging that gap? And just, I guess, discuss your relationship that Dawg Nation has now grown because of Peter McNab with a lot of NHLers, both current and former.
Yeah, he introduced me to a few guys, but more than anything, it allowed me to then, when I would run into meet a Joe Sakic for the first time or so on and so forth, what I would get quite often would be, oh yeah, Peter told me about this. So it wasn't like, hence the credibility. So it allowed me to then just kind of say, this is what this is. And people didn't, I was past the part where you had to explain it and tell everybody about it. Is it real? So on and so forth. Because Peter had already done that for me. And so that was probably the biggest thing. And over the years, the other really main role I think he would have is some of the stuff that most people did never see is if someone was in a troubled situation, he would do these videos. He would just send me a video where it was him talking and 20 seconds or so or 30 seconds, and it was just words of encouragement. And I honestly can't count how many times he did that. And I would ask him when he would do that when somebody was in a really dire spot, and he always stepped up and did it. And that was kind of the coolest part about it. Now, a lot of the other guys do that too, but it was Peter really was the very best at that, and that was a huge part of people's recovery when they were in their darkest moments. All of a sudden, you get a text message and it's Peter McNab telling you to get better. It's pretty cool, right?
That's really cool.
So,
really cool.
Yeah.
Awesome story.
I, like many members of the media lately, have been soliciting stories from people who knew him and people who knew him closely. I was wondering if you would be willing to share a wonderful Peter McNab memory with us.
Yeah, I think the biggest one, and I think you guys, a lot of people know this story of the person, but Dave Repsher was a Flight for Life helicopter nurse and was involved in a horrific helicopter crash in Summit County in 2015, and the helicopter went down. The pilot unfortunately passed away, and Dave was able to get out of the helicopter but was burned over 90% of his body. And really by, honestly, miracle gets overused, but not in this case. Dave was a miracle that he survived, and he did. And I told Peter about the story, and he came down and he went to the hospital with me. And Dave had already been in the hospital probably 6 months and had multiple brushes with death. And at that point, still not in a good spot at all. And it was during the playoffs when Avs weren't in the playoffs that year, but I took him down, and Peter brought a whole pile of food and into the room. Dave couldn't even eat any of it. He was on a very strict diet, but the rest of us could. And we had some chicken wings and sat there and watched hockey. And Peter was right there in the room. We all had our gowns on and gloves on, so we wouldn't spread any germs. And Dave was like, I can't believe it. Like, Peter McNab sitting here in my room watching playoff hockey. And now what happened with that was then the next week it moved Pete so much that I didn't even know this till Dave told me the next week is Pete came back the next week and watched hockey with Dave again. And so he was really instrumental in that recovery of Dave, where there was a whole documentary done on that won multiple awards and different things called D-Rep, A Fight for Life, and kind of play on words there. But Peter's prominent in that documentary, and he calls the Dave and Amanda story the greatest love story that's ever been told. And so one of my favorite quotes, if not my favorite quote ever, from Peter McNab. And so
that's incredible.
Yeah.
Not surprising though, right? Not surprising. Sounds exactly like Peter McNab.
Yeah, and that was probably. I mean, he got to know a lot of our recipients over the years, but probably Dave and Amanda were. I mean, I can't ask him, so putting words in his mouth, but I would have guessed that probably was. I don't know if favorite's the right word, but probably the most impactful to him personally was probably that, because that was a. I know it meant he was just blown away by the strength and resilience of Dave. We all were.
Yeah.
And, but that was the one he really gravitated to.
Yeah, that's a fantastic story. I mean, Dawg Nation has legs of its own right now, as we talked before. It's growing in other states and getting bigger, but obviously a big part of that was Peter McNab. So what does Dawg Nation look like without Peter McNab? I mean, obviously a big void is missing. How does Dawg Nation move forward without such a prominent piece of the puzzle?
Well, the beauty of what Peter helped us with was that credibility part and where we were able to help enough people and so on and so forth that it built a really, really good foundation, and that's really kind of what you want to do with anything. And his legacy will live on within Dawg Nation, but our foundation is really strong now, so he'll be missed, absolutely, but I know we're going to go forward, and hence next Friday we will. And the day after that, we're going to be up in Loveland, and Yanni's going to that with me too, and we're going to help another family and meet up at a Eagles game, and all of those, the ability for us to just continue to get rally groups, it all comes from the original foundation, and Peter was one of those pillars.
Indeed. Awesome stuff, Marty. Thanks so much for hanging out with us today. Maybe you name an award, the Peter McNab Annual
Community Ambassador Award or something.
Yeah, something.
Yeah, it's a really good idea to do something like that, and you're the first one that kind of brought that up, but I would, we at our last board meeting, it was just a few days, actually it was only 2 days after the announced day of Peter's passing, and we did kind of like that around the room, and each board member got to tell their favorite memory of Peter. It was really cool to hear all the different stories, and we're seeing that also on social media. I love reading them and hearing these stories, and I lost my dad this year too, and I thought of cancer also, and even though Peter was battling his own cancer, he kind of guided me on a little bit of that too. But during that, like I remember during my dad's service, it was really cool to hear stories that I didn't know about. And that was kind of what I'm doing when I read these posts about Peter. It's like, wow, that's really cool. I never even knew that one. Yep. And so, yeah, and I'm sure you guys are seeing those same ones. And so it's, you realize how many lives he touched and how many people he impacted. And each of us are just one of those. So it's pretty cool.
Truly a celebration of the life of Peter McNab.
Indeed.
Yeah, I hear you.
Right on, Marty. Well, thanks for hanging out with us, and we'll see you next Friday. And thanks to you, and thanks to Dawg Nation, and most importantly, thanks to Peter McNab for everything he's done for us. So thanks again.
Yeah, you're welcome. Thank you.
All right, talk to you later. There you have it, Martin Richardson on the life and contributions of Peter McNab. I mean, just amazing stuff. None of it surprising, and we can all learn a lesson from such an amazing hockey figure to be so good to everybody. We were just fortunate to have gotten to know him, because think of how many lives he has touched, like Marty said, that those people never really got to sit there and have this hockey conversation with him that we all talk about. But we were lucky. So
he's a man who very much lived life in the public eye, and there's obviously a private life to Peter McNab as well, with his family and his kids and his grandkids. But you're also struck by, when hearing all of these stories, how much that he did publicly, privately, but in public, right? And publicly in public, was like a guy who never had an off day, a bad day. Like, he was just always on.
Right. And he always had a smile on. So let's all learn to be more like Peter McNab. We'll be right back here on the Hockey Show. We got a fun little fourth segment to go, and then we'll wrap up because we got Avs hockey tonight. So we'll get into it. Thanks for hanging out with us. JJ Jerez, Ryan Boulding, Danny Bailey behind the glass. Mile High Sports.
I play hockey and I fornicate because those are the two most fun things in cold weather.
We're getting freaky here in the fourth segment, aren't we?
I was just thinking the only other Akon song I know is Lonely Island.
There's a lot. There's a lot.
Yeah, that's me.
The reason we're playing the Akon featuring Eminem song, of course, we found out just last game that this is, I think, the Avalanche's win song for the year. They've had a lot of good win songs over past years, but definitely an interesting random choice considering the age of that song.
Maybe it was Throwback Thursday. I don't know.
I was in high school. It could have been Throwback Thursday, but I don't know. I feel like ever since Tyson Barrie left the team, the song choices and the music played in that locker room has kind of declined.
I feel like I've told this story before. I don't know if I've told this story on the show, but one time when I worked for the team, they were playing Oasis in the locker room, and I was like, Tyson was and Nate, but mostly Tyson, were the locker room DJs, like you said, and I was like, oh, I've seen them live, and they were like, no, you haven't. You're not that old. And I'm like, yeah, I am. I had to, I looked it up and showed them. I'm like, it was one of the Oasis's last concerts before they broke up, because the Gallagher brothers hate each other. But
Danny has a little theory as to why they might have chosen that. He said that because there's something in the lyrics. He almost told me at the beginning of the show. I was like, nope, save it for on air. So Danny, hit us with your theory.
Let's hear the theory here.
I don't think that's what I was saying.
Oh, my bad.
I was just saying I like the choice.
Oh, well, I don't know why they picked it.
I don't know. Yeah, I don't think
I
don't think there needs to be hidden meaning or anything.
It's just a vibe.
It's
He said we just like this 15-year-old song. We're gonna go with this one.
But I think
they heard it on the 90s
I guess,
station.
Yeah, it's not anything to do with the lyrics or anything, but I think part of the reason that they went with a song of that era is because of the age of the guys on the team.
Yeah, it's like retro now.
So it's like
old school for them.
It's like kind of old school, but there's some guys who are just like, yeah, that's just a throwback to high school.
Yeah. Or even
not a bad theory.
Yeah. I don't know. I think there has to be some sort of inside story to it, but
we should start asking.
I agree.
We could have asked McKinnon about it today. I just didn't want to go over and get in his grill.
Last week I was itching for hockey, right? The Avalanche were in Finland. We had just wrapped up our hockey show. I hadn't seen a hockey game in real life in like 2 weeks. So I was going to go to the Eagles game that night. They were playing. And then I looked up ticket prices.
I thought you were going to say you looked up the drive.
Well, I was willing to do the drive because I want to see the Eagles. I have yet to be up there at the Budweiser Event Center. I look at ticket prices, and they're outrageous. It makes sense because AHL drives their revenue from attendance. They don't have any major ticket deals, but they were expensive. So instead, I called a last-minute audible. The DU game started an hour earlier, It's an hour closer to my house and half the price tickets, not even a third of the price, actually. And what a delightful time that was. I say it all the time. It's always a travesty how little attention they get in this town. I mean, I could say the same thing about the Eagles, but just the fact that I'm making moves to go see these teams, I like it, and I think more people need to hop on that bus.
I think you miss out, too, with the departure of Mike Chambers from the hockey writing world. You get a little less DU coverage in your face. I think it's out there. You can find it, right? But like you said, they're criminally underrepresented in this city.
Agreed. So we've been waiting for this moment for a few weeks. As we talked a couple weeks ago, BioSteel is now the NHL's main sponsor. You see their logo everywhere. You see the water bottles behind the bench. You see the towels. You see everything. You even see these cute little cartons in the penalty box and in the cup holders behind the bench as well. So we wanted to try some on air, see what all the hype was about, and see if it really is good. I have a special little scanner, Ryan, that I scan all things that I consume.
Yeah, he does it. He likes to pull this out when I'm eating a package of mini donuts in the press box and let me know how much sooner I'm going to die.
Yep, indeed. So I scanned the BioSteel. They scanned great. They were an excellent rating, 86 out of 100, so they don't have any garbage in it for you. There's no real sugar. It's just purely electrolytes. So that's what's interesting, right? It's purely about hydration. So it's after a good hockey workout or any sport, really, this is what's going to fuel your body to get back to where you need to be. No real nutrients in it, no vitamins, but just purely, the sodium, magnesium, and potassium, those kind of things for you. So we have yet to try it. We're trying it here on air. We've got 2 flavors, one peach mango and the other mixed berry. All 3 of us have them. So which one do we start with, boys? I kind of like peach mango. That's always been a favorite flavor of mine in anything. Gum, candy.
I'm going to hate that one, so let's go with that one first.
Okay, so let's try peach mango first.
Why don't you drink? I'll talk, so it's not just
that's
dead
what
air.
I was just thinking.
Yeah, you guys swish it around, treat it like a glass of wine. Swirl it, swish it in your mouth. Take it to the back of your taste buds, spit it out, then take a sip.
I learned from a winery, it's not till the second sip or drink that you actually really absorb all the flavors and aromas. So drink it twice, even chew it a little bit.
It's amazing because it smells very strong. It smells like candy. And then you look at the label and there's no sugar or anything, and you're like, how does it smell and taste this good? Mango peach is pretty good.
I like it. I give it an A. Mango peach. And if I was in need of some hydration, I was sweating heavily today, this would have been great. But I haven't done anything but watch hockey and talk about hockey. So maybe I'll hit the gym after this. Time to try mixed berry for me. My turn. Take the mic.
Oh, I'm taking over. We're doing it again. Actually, the mango peach for me was pretty good. I don't know that it would be my go-to choice as a flavor, but I could see myself drinking it. And I have to say, just as an aside here, I was reading the side of the carton. It's recyclable, and it's a plant-based cap, which is awesome. So it's not even real plastic.
I do like that. Yeah, it is.
I'm very conscious of these things.
Absolutely. I was just watching the documentary on Woodstock 99, and there was a moment where Wyclef Jean, he's playing the national anthem on the guitar and tells all the people to start throwing their plastic and their trash, and there's just oceans of plastic flying through the air, and that's what you're thinking, like, man, look at all that trash that's just going to go sit in a landfill. This stuff is going to probably biodegrade. Danny, give us your thoughts on the new beverage that we're trying here live.
So I've had it once before.
How dare you?
Freaking Danny.
I know.
You cheated on us, Danny.
Because I was curious, because I think it was actually on a Saturday right after you guys talked about doing it, and I was like, well, I might as well try it.
I am parched,
but
potentially hungover. I could get a BioSteel.
Yeah, but it was good. I'm a fan of both flavors, and yeah, like you said, Ryan, it's so sweet. You think there's going to be a lot of sugar, but
None.
The fact it's super good for you and sustainable packaging, what more can you want?
It reminds me of like an Otter Pop.
Nailed it.
Like, I wonder if you could freeze these in tubes.
It tastes a lot like the drinks we would have as children, which were usually flooded in sugar. Yeah, flooded in sugar. But, as we mentioned, this was designed by former hockey players, so it's nice to see it take some space in the hockey world, and I can tell that the brand is growing. I'm seeing BioSteel in more areas than just the hockey rink. So good for them on making a good drink for you, because, those other sports drinks are just garbage for your insides.
I actually, now, having tasted the berry one,
I think the peach mango is better.
I prefer the peach mango, which I didn't think I would ever say in my life that I would prefer a peach mango anything.
There's still a couple more flavors, too. I almost got all 4 that they had available at this nearby gas station, but I didn't. I only got the 2.
What are the other 2 flavors?
One of them's blue raspberry, which doesn't exist in nature, so I'm curious how that always is a flavor with it.
Especially if you're not putting dye in it.
Right. And the other one was, I think, just almost a punch, like a mixture of all of them.
Just the jungle juice one?
Yeah. But yeah, we've got Avs hockey to get to tonight, so that'll do it for us. I think, honestly, I know I don't have much time to get into this, but I don't think the Avalanche are winning tonight. Just a hunch based off what I saw this morning and the way the lineups are shaking out with injuries and such.
I have to imagine there's going to be a strong response from the team because Jared Bednar was pretty not thrilled with the overall performance last game. But like you said, looked a little flat. Francouz hasn't won a game yet.
Right on. Well, we'll see how it goes, and we'll be back next week to talk more things hockey, and we'll get ready for the Soccer World Cup. I'm all into that. I'll be wearing a jersey next week for sure. So thanks for hanging out with us this week. This is The Hockey Show. JJ Jerez, Ryan Bolding, Danny Bailey behind the glass. We'll be back next week. Mile High Sports.